Tarini Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. The topic for this 6-day visit, whatever it is the prayers of Lord Brahma. The prayers of Lord Brahma. It's an important chapter. You'll see as we go along. Important in many ways. One of them is, obviously, Lord Brahma is the head of our sampradaya. And these are his personal prayers, chapter 14 from Canto 10 to Krishna. And because it's Lord Brahma, because they're important prayers, you'll see there are some very celebrated verses that we refer to, that Srila Prabhupada refers to again and again because of their importance. I'll just mention one. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Ramananda Roy to instruct him to explain the goal of life and the means to achieve it. There were several verses, some of our favorite verses. Sarvadharmam parijajya mamekam sharanam braja. That wasn't it. Yad karoshi yadasnasi. That wasn't it. Varnashram dharma. Yes, that wasn't it. Go further, go further, go further. And the one that was it is in Brahma's prayers. We'll come to it quickly. Not tonight. And another very important verse, everyone that has experienced difficulty in their life, anyone never experienced difficulty in their life? For those who have, there's a celebrated verse that's in this section, the prayers of Lord Brahma. Tat te nukampam susamikshimano. Very important verse for devotees to take shelter of, take inside. Oh, this is an important section. And to prepare ourselves for this important section, it's nice to know what leads up to it. So we'll spend a little bit of time this evening with a quick summary of chapter 13 and then move into chapter 14. So here's a nice image of Lord Brahma sitting on his lotus with his 4 arms, holding beads and scripture in a nice mudra pose for meditation. And we'll hear Lord Brahma's prayers. Chapter 14, Canto 10. This is the pose, very beautiful painting, where Lord Brahma has come before Krishna on his knees before a little boy who's holding a lump of yogurt and rice and fruit in his left hand, because he eats with his right hand, looking with unblinking eyes at Brahma as Brahma is offering his prayers. So chapter 13 begins with a very nice description, one of several found in the Bhagavatam, of preparing Krishna to go out with the cows and herd the cows in the forest of Vrindavan. And this is a painting taken from Brihat Bhagavatamrita, where Mother Jasoda is, um, she can't bear separation from Krishna, but he's got to go. So she runs forward and adjusts his garland and smiles, says, "Mother, I have to go now." And he takes a few more steps, and she runs after him and makes sure he has enough samosas in his lunch bag. And "Mother, I have to go now." Anyway, back and forth, and finally she watches him go off into the forest until her eyes can't see him anymore, just seeing the dust from the hooves of the cows as he's heading into the forest, enjoying with his cowherd boys. And the cows are just following along. It's described, the cows, he didn't really have to herd the cows because the cows just followed Krishna wherever he went. So the boys just played. And there's a detailed description, chapter 13. In case you wanted to become a cowherd boy, you find out what they do. Sometimes they'd take a posture like the peacock, boy on the right. Sometimes Krishna would imitate the preparing to jump like a frog. Another boy taking flight like a bird. Sometimes they make sounds like the forest animals. And sometimes they would steal one of the cowherd boys' lunch bag, in case this is Madhu Mangal, in case you didn't recognize him. He's with a shaved head and Sika. And they snatched his bag, and he went running after the bag, and Krishna would toss the bag to one of the other boys, and he'd run after the other boy, and as soon as he got close to him, he'd toss the bag to another boy, and Madhu Mangal saying, "You're in big trouble, you've taken the property of a Brahmin." And they'd laugh. And sometimes they would just sit and listen to Krishna play upon his flute. And there's pages and pages and pages of their childhood activities. So the mood is the childhood activities of Krishna and the cowherd boys. With that mood firmly in place, they continue moving along the path, and they see something they've never seen before. And there's this giant entity. They don't know what it is. There's a big cave. And then they get closer. It's not a big cave. It's a big serpent. And some of the boys speculate, maybe it's just a play place that Krishna made for us. And some of the boys said, no, it's a big demon. And they started running. And the other boys would say, well, even if it's a demon, Krishna has always protected us. Let's go see what's inside. And so they started going inside. And other boys followed them. And because the boys were going, the cows followed them. And there's a very nice little section where Krishna is watching all this. Very nice section. He has unlimited potencies. We'll hear some of that shortly. Unlimited, how many potencies? Without limit in number and without limit in quantity, and they're all personified. And one of the chief of those potencies is Satya Shakti. Satya Shakti means whatever he wants, it happens. And how does it happen? He wants it. That's how it happens. That's how it happens. From his desire, sankalpa, all the potencies go in all different directions to take care of what he wants. So as he was seeing the cowherd boys go into the mouth of the demon, he was thinking, oh no, they shouldn't go in the mouth of the demon. But they continued going into the mouth of the demon. And he was astonished at his own Yogamaya potency. Our commentators describe it like this. He was astonished at the workings of his own Yogamaya potency to interfere with his Satya Sankalpa Shakti and bewilder him for a moment. And the next moment, he was unbewildered. He wasn't really bewildered. He was Yogamaya and amazed at the wonder of his Yogamaya, because there's an important Leela to be, and a whole sequence of Leelas. So he knew exactly what to do. When the serpent had all the cowherd boys enter the mouth, he didn't close his jaws because he wanted Krishna. So Krishna entered and he closed his jaws. And what did Krishna do? He has unlimited potencies. He's the master of all mystic powers, Yogeshwara. And so one of those mystic powers is he can become unlimitedly big. And he can become unlimitedly small at the same time. So he became unlimitedly big and big and big and big. And the serpent, his body expanded and expanded and expanded, but finally he couldn't expand any further. And the air in his body became suffocated with how big Krishna had become, and he died. He suffocated. And the soul within the Aghasura body left the top of his head and hovered in the sky like a bright light when Krishna and the cowherd boys came marching out of the mouth of the Aghasura demon. That soul merged into the body of Krishna. And the boys were really happy. Wow, that was really good. Let's go have lunch. And our acharyas describe, it happened every day, twice a day, at least. And the time that the first demon would come was around 11 o'clock. Because when the demon was killed, it was time for lunch. Because they were so absorbed in playing, they wouldn't stop playing. So there had to be an interruption to their play. And that was the demon came. And then in the afternoon, around 4 o'clock. Because they would have just played all day and all night. So when the second demon came, it was a sign, time to go back. Like that. So we hear the prominent demons, but there are many. Many. For Krishna's enjoyment. For Krishna's protection and Krishna's enjoyment. Because when the demons would come, Krishna! So it intensifies their shelter taking in Krishna. And then their celebration of Krishna. Oh, what a wonderful activity you just did. So it was time for lunch. And that particular day, it just so happened that Lord Brahma had come to pay a visit just to observe Krishna's wonderful pastimes. And as he was flying over with his swan carry, he saw this happen. Then he saw the same Krishna sitting down in a circle with all the cowherd boys surrounding him, having lunch like an ordinary boy. And he was wondering, who is he? It's not like he didn't know, but it was part of a Leela and part of Krishna's giving us the chance to hear Brahma's wonderful prayers and some other things. We'll see as we go along. So he started to think, how powerful is Krishna? And he wanted to examine how powerful was Krishna by exhibiting some of his power, which came from Krishna, to see what Krishna would do. And so what did he do? He decided to kidnap the calves, because this is, by the way, he hasn't started with the cows yet. He's still 5 years old. 4 years old? 4 years old. 4 years old, because when he turned 5, he started with the cows. So it's calves. 4 years old. And he decided he would kidnap the calves, so as they were having their lunch, the calves started wandering here and there, eating grass, and Brahma came along and kidnapped the calves and put them in a cave. And the cowherd boy said, "Hey, where's the calves?" And so we better find the calves because our life is to protect the calves. Krishna said, "Don't worry. You continue lunch, I'll find them and bring them back." So Krishna went, and when Krishna went, then Brahma came and kidnapped the cowherd boys and put them in the cave. And this painting shows they were in the same cave. Must have been a big cave. And then he went back to the scene of the crime, because criminals do that sometimes, to see what's Krishna going to do. Our commentators said, maybe he'll cry. Maybe he'll say, "Oh, Brahma, please help me find the calves, my dear friends, the cowherd boys." Let's see what he's going to do. And when he went back to where he had taken the calves and cowherd boys to see what Krishna would do, he was amazed. He saw all the calves and cowherd boys. So he went back to the cave, and they were in the cave. And he went back, and then he saw not only the cowherd boys and the calves, but he then saw each of the cowherd boys simultaneously manifesting a form of Narayana. And each of the forms of Narayana, as many as there were cowherd boys and calves, and there's a lot of, at the beginning of the chapter it says how many cowherd boys and calves, and it's a lot. The number of cowherd boys, it says, is asankhataha, means too many to count. And our acharyas go down, like you have to have this many trillion times, that many trillion times, that many trillion times, that many trillion, more than that is asankhataha. There were a lot of cowherd boys. So there are a lot of Narayana forms, and surrounding each of the Narayana forms, there were the opulences of Krishna, all personified, headed by Anima Siddhi, the 8 mystic perfections, headed by Aja, headed by the 24 elements. You can imagine that, the 24 elements personified. Headed by Mahatattva. Imagine meeting Mahatattva personified. Wow. And time energy, Kala. No one has ever seen time. We measure it, but Brahma saw it. Personified. It's because it says it in the verse. Swabhava, Samskara, Kama, Karma, the gunas, their own independence being completely subordinate to the potency of the Supreme Lord, all who had taken forms and were worshipping these Vishnu Murtis. So it must have been a really loud cacophony of sound, because they're all worshipping, offering prayers, personified Vedas offering prayers, and all these different energies surrounding each one of the Vishnu forms, or Narayan forms. Now, needless to say, Brahma was overwhelmed. Because remember, his curiosity was, what's the limit? So he matched his own mystic powers against Krishna's mystic powers, and Krishna won. No limit. He fainted. The phrase that's used in the verse is atarkya nija mahima, mahimani, his inconceivable potencies, inconceivable opulence, or wonders. And when he regained his composure, that's the scene. He was on his knees before Krishna. Oh, after all of those things were displayed, and he fainted, and he looked up, and poof, they were all gone. Like, they were Krishna's manifestations. The cowherd boys, that he saw were manifestations of Krishna, because the cowherd boys that he kidnapped, they were in the cave. And the cowherd boys that he saw, they were Krishna's expansions, along with all of his potencies and all the Vishnu forms. And so, in other words, Krishna's everything. An exact likeness of the cowherd boys. So the prayers begin. Krishna's potencies are unlimited. So how can one know the unlimited when you're limited? Well, you can't. You can know according to revelation, that much you can know. And so the prayers are disclosing his revelation. Here's the first verse. Notice that it's color-coded, meaning the Sanskrit phrases up top have their English translations towards the bottom. Lord Brahma said, "My dear Lord, you are the only worshipable Lord, Idya Te, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore I offer my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you. O son of the king of the cowherds," that's this phrase at the bottom, "your transcendental body is dark blue like a new cloud, Abra Vapushe. Your garment is brilliant like lightning, Tadid Ambaraya. And the beauty of your face is enhanced by your gunja earrings and the peacock feather on your head. Wearing garlands of various forest flowers and leaves, and equipped with a herding stick, a buffalo horn, and a flute, you stand beautifully with a morsel of food in your hand." Now that's what he's seeing. He's decorated nicely, yet he seems like he's one of us, or just a simple boy. Decorated nicely, but a simple boy. But obviously he knows he's more than a simple boy. And Krishna, Vishwanath Chakravarti writes, Krishna's silently responding, "Oh Brahma, I'm a cowherd boy. Why are you worshipping me? You are Lord Brahma. Brahma literally means you are the greatest, most powerful, most knowledgeable, all-knowing person in the universe. That is you. Why you're offering your obeisances to me?" Next. "My dear Lord, neither I nor anyone else can estimate the potency, Neshamahi Tvavashitam, of this transcendental body of yours, which has shown such mercy to me. And which appears just to fulfill the desires of your pure devotees. Although my mind is completely withdrawn from material affairs, I cannot understand your all-spiritual personal form. How then could I possibly understand the happiness you experience within yourself?" I mean, there's many things to say. He's expressing that Krishna's appearing is simply for the pleasure of his devotees, his pure devotees in particular. And so he has appeared before Brahma, shown what Brahma was asking to see, and it shorted his circuits. It was overwhelming. and yet he's appearing in this very simple form. Why does he do like that? Because he wants to please his devotees. He's enjoying, but his enjoyments are unlimited, and his enjoyments are specific to the devotee and the devotee's desire for relationship with Krishna. And very clear, it comes out in his prayers, he's not a Brijbasi. He's a visitor, but he's not a Brijbasi. He doesn't have the love that they have. And so he's getting a special treatment because of the kind of love that he has. He has, very important service to do. He's very, very, very qualified. I mean, who can do what Brahma does? I like Prabhupada's statement. Let the scientist make one mosquito. One mosquito that can fly in any direction and reproduce itself. Just one mosquito. And how many mosquitoes? And all varieties. And how do you make one? And then what to speak of all the other things and all the other things. I mean, how intelligent is Brahma? How to mix this and that and the other material energy together and make things. How intelligent is he? To understand the energies of Krishna and how to fit the energies together to make things. He's a super engineer. He's chief engineer of the whole universe. And yet to understand that person from whom he derives that intelligence, ability, and power, he's had some realization, but he's getting a refresh. And so his prayers are going to disclose what the very, very special position of the resident Vrindavan. It comes out in his prayers, and he's the head of our sampradaya. In essence, Vishwanath is expressing like this: I desire to examine the extent of your potency. I desire to understand how you'll react to my showing my power. In turn, you have shown such mercy to me by giving me a glimpse of who you actually are. How can one estimate something that is unlimited, which can produce unlimited entities, each having unlimited potencies? Well, we can't. So we need a different process, and the next verse is a key verse. The futility of the process of Gyan. So another process is needed. It's going to be the Bhakti process. And here comes this very celebrated verse. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukuritam bhavadiyavartam stane statakshrutikatam tanuvan manobhir ye prayaso jito jito pyasi traistrilokyam. This is the verse that Ramananda Roy cited, which is the essence of the goal of life and the means to reach it. So there's the negation, that's udapasya namanta eva, jnane prayasa udapasya. The process of gyan and in prayasa, endeavoring by the strength of gyan, udapasya, it's to be rejected. And namanta eva, instead offering obeisances. Jivanti, we'll see towards the end of this class the significance of this word jivanti. San mukaritam. San mukaritam. Those who are the devotees of the Lord, they vibrate his glories. Bhavadiyavartan. Dedicating their lives to these narrations. There are many verses, several verses. Some of my favorite verses in the Bhagavatam explain that's something that will help us. It's one who has this one quality, the attraction and faith and attachment to the hearing of topics of Krishna with faith, can carry one to the stage of perfection. Just that one thing. Now, faithless persons can't get that one thing. But faithful persons, in the company of those that are broadcasting genuinely the glories of the personality of Godhead, which is what Srimad Bhagavatam is doing, that is sufficient to carry one to the perfection. The faith, that's what the quality that we have in receiving this sound vibration, the factual glories of the personality of Godhead, which Brahma is doing right in this verse, and with the whole pastime. Dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you're otherwise unconquerable. So one of Krishna's names, Ajita, and then Ajita can be Jita. And how does Ajita, who can't be conquered, become conquered? He becomes conquered when he sees it as a very wonderful and important teaching. The personality Godhead is the controller of everyone, and he who is the controller of everyone becomes controlled by his devotees, or becomes controlled by the love of his devotees. And the love of the residents of Vrindavan are topmost, is topmost. The love of the residents of Vrindavan is topmost. But Lord Brahma is also a very special devotee, and so the Lord is enacting a pastime for him. As the Lord was enacting a pastime for Aghasura and the cowherd boys. He was liberating Aghasura. He got Sayuja Mukti. He was a bad guy. And he got Sayuja Mukti. And it was, with a pastime where he thinks, I'm going to get Krishna. So Krishna taunted him and finished him and gave him liberation. And the cowherd boys were feeling protected by Krishna. And that's why they went into the mouths of the Aghasura so freely. Maybe this, maybe that, but even if it is a demon, Krishna will protect us. Let's go. Let's see what's inside. He's reciprocating lovingly according to how one has regard for him, with everyone. That's the Bhagavad Gita's message. And he, Brahma, is feeling very fortunate that Krishna is showing his original form and revealing in a way that Brahma can relate to who he really is. He's the unlimited, supreme source of everything that he saw. You could say there wasn't something he didn't see, because he saw everything. Or these potencies of the Supreme Lord, they're the basis and foundation of everything that's within this world. Within the world that Brahma created, its basis is in the spiritual world. We'll do it again. I mean, 3 modes of material nature personified. What did they look like? Time. What did time personified look like? We can say, it's a Shakti. Kala Shakti. It's a Shakti. But that Shakti comes from the person. And the person and the Shakti of that person come from the Supreme Person. How powerful is that Supreme Person? And look at his form. And Brahma's feeling so fortunate seeing his form. Because by the process of Gyan, one isn't eligible. He has Gyan. He gives Gyan. And Gyan isn't efficient. By Gyan, one cannot see or understand or know that which is unknowable. But through bhakti, then that which is unknowable can disclose. That's what scripture is. I mean, the Western language is revealed scripture. What's revealed scripture revealing? It's revealing God. At least notionally, and then, personally. And Brahma knows the Vedas. Now Brahma's meeting that which is the purpose of the Vedas, is to reveal the person. Now he's standing before him in his original form, which wasn't knowable through the Gyan process. Who understands that better than Brahma, who knows everything? Gyane prayasa udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam. Sanmukharitam. Vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees. Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartan. Dedicating their lives to these narrations. It's not just an energy. It's not just a practice. Not just an exercise. It's a dedication to these narrations, means to the personification of the personality Godhead and his pastimes and qualities, and the descriptions of those are none different than him. So that how do we get access to that which is unknowable, to that sound vibration? A dedication in service to that sound vibration, to the person who that sound vibration is revealing. And then, one who does that, he who is unconquerable can be conquered. Very important. Again, this was the verse that was spoken by Ramananda Roy. Maybe you've seen this painting before. It's a nice painting. It's Ramananda Roy and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are meeting for the first time. Some of you know from Chaitanya Charitamrita the pastime. After Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas, his mother requested him, please don't go to Vrindavan. I know you want to be with Krishna, but Krishna is in Puri also in the form of Jagannath. So go to Jagannath, go to Puri, because every year devotees from Navadvip, they go to Jagannath Puri for Rath Yatra. So when they come back, at least I'll get news of you, and if not, who knows, I may never even hear of you ever again. So please go to Jagannath Puri. Such a nice exchange. Lord Chaitanya apologized. I'm just a madman. What have I done? So surely I'll do what you say. You're my life. So he went to Puri. And after a little while, he left Puri, heading for South India. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who had now become a devotee by Lord Chaitanya's association, although previously he was the opposite, or not opposite, but he was an impersonal scholar, but he had become now a devotee. He said, when you travel, please make sure, one thing, just meet Ramananda Roy. I used to think not very nicely of him, but now I understand he is such a highly learned person. You'll very much enjoy his company. Please meet him. So it was arranged when he was traveling. So Ramananda Roy was then the governor of, at that time at least, when Chaitanya Charitamrita was written, it was still Madras. And Madras didn't just mean a city, it was a whole big area. Big area, like Tamil Nadu. He was a person in charge of the whole place. And highly elevated spiritually. So when they met, they were both overwhelmed. And you see in the background, that fellow with his arms crossed, that's, he and his others, there's ministers of the governor wondering, what's going on? Our governor is going mad. So they checked themselves, made an arrangement to meet instead privately in the evening, and then this discussion took place where the opening step in the discussion was, what's the highest truth and the means to reach it? That's where they started. And suggestions, and when Ramananda Roy came to this verse, Lord Chaitanya said, that's it. Very important verse. It's, it can be discussed at length many times in many ways. You can read about it in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's one place it's discussed. Pure devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge is the essence of perfection. A similar message was taught by the Hamsa avatar to Lord Brahma. And it looks like the Kumaras were in the vicinity at the same time. If we don't see the factual relationship between matter and Krishna, we're not seeing accurately. That's a little paraphrase of one of the teachings of Hamsa avatar to Lord Brahma. The explanation given in Chaitanya Charitamrita is this. The Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, certainly sees, this is Prabhupada's purport, sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. This statement, when they see a tree, they don't see the tree. They see Krishna there. That's Prabhupada's statement. So there's a tree, and I don't see Krishna. I see a tree, pretty big tree. But that's the standard of perfection for a Krishna conscious person. They can see the tree. That was in the previous slide. They can see the tree, but to not just see the tree. They see Krishna present. Because the energy is from the source, the energetic. Sanatana Goswami comments about this verse this way. The Svetashvatara Upanishad states, Tam eva viditva. Freedom is possible only by understanding Brahman, and if that's the case, then how can an ignorant person attain liberation? Because how can an ignorant person understand Brahman? This verse answers the question. This is Sanatana Goswami's commentary on this verse. By bhakti. By bhakti, you can understand the Supreme Brahman. And without bhakti, you can't understand the Supreme Brahman. Not by learning and scholarship and this and that. Doesn't mean you take your intelligence and turn it into the opposition and become a mindless bhakta. But it's not by the acumen of intellect that one can understand. It's by bhakti and the revelation, the reciprocation that comes from Krishna, from that bhakti. Guided by intelligence, yes, but spiritual intelligence. By the hearing process, we develop such a loving, trusted relationship with Krishna that he will say, I am like this. You wanted to see me as I am. You wanted to serve me. Such a deep desire for so long. And I have tested you so many times, and you chose me. Now, here I am. Nice. So that's this third verse. And I think that's as far as we're going to get this evening. This next line is where we'll begin next time we pick up. O Krishna, O Ajita, you are conquered by this path. Let me say more about this glorious process, bhakti, in contrast to Gyan. So there's a foundation in his prayers. The statement has been made, and he's going to build this case further. The superiority of bhakti to Gyan. Now, it's not that Krishna doesn't know, but he's glorifying Krishna as he is. And feeling, who can imagine what feelings he's feeling? Feeling transcendentally grateful that Krishna has shown him what he has shown him. And his original form from which all of this comes. Because who can see that? There's statements again and again in the scripture. When one sees the form of Krishna, all other desires are gone permanently. It sees the form of Krishna with the eyes of love. Because demons can also see, but see with the eyes of love. And that's Krishna's reciprocation with the devotee. That's where we want to go. We're not there yet, but that's where we want to go. And hearing these topics with faith is the way to get there. And the way to get there means Krishna will disclose himself. The Ajita personality becomes Jita by that attachment to him, just by hearing. And then with hearing, then what we do with that hearing, our service in a loving and mindful and devotional way. That's how far we got with Brahma's teachings. Now he's going to continue further. Hare Krishna. Any discussion? And sorry for the confusion in the beginning of the class, but we'll get it together better tomorrow.
Maharaj, thank you for the very nice class. Is Lord Brahma doing all this because he wants to glorify the Lord, like Bhishma wanted to see? He was in some ways playing with the Lord so that Krishna's greatness of breaking his vow would be shown to the world. In the same way, Krishna's greatness will be shown to the world. Is this more his motivation of doing this, or is it more like Indra, where there's some pride, or is it a mix of the two?
My understanding is it's neither of those. Brahma and Bhishma are both in the categories of Mahajans. Now, Bhishma did what he did. There's many reasons why he did what he did, but it was part of what he did is the chivalrous rasa. Knowing that Krishna likes chivalrous exchange, so he took the role of chivalrous exchange. But he wanted to expose Krishna's greatness, that he takes his protecting his devotee above his own word, upholding word, because that's a virtue. But more than virtue is protecting his devotee. That's Krishna, Bhaktavatsala. And in this case, my sense is, because I've spent a lot of time with this, my sense is, it was a combination of Krishna's Yogamaya influencing Brahma to do what Brahma did, to allow Brahma to reveal to the world his prayers and, the bhakti process through him, and through his prayers, the super excellent position of the Brijbasis. So Brahma was being an instrument. And it's not specifically, my understanding is, it's not specifically, he was thinking like Bhishma, I want to show the world that Krishna is Bhaktavatsala. Because I know he'll protect Arjuna. So I'll take a vow that I'll, so like that. He wanted to show Krishna's glories. So it's not that Brahma wanted, that's not, my understanding is not that Brahma wanted to show Krishna's glories, so he did what he did, so Krishna would show his glories. He was not like Indra. But she was challenging in a way that a devoted person doesn't challenge the one that they're devoted to. Let's see the limit of the unlimited. It's a challenge. It's curiosity. Not like the challenge of a demon. And Krishna's reciprocating. So and yes, part of the Yoga Maya influence is Brahma can then offer his wonderful prayers, and Krishna can show his indifference to the wonderful prayers, in contrast with the desire to go finish lunch with the cowherd boys. He didn't say anything at the end of the prayers. He just wanted to go back and finish lunch with the cowherd boys, because that's his happiness. So it's Leela all the way, with different dimensions and features, kind of like the rising and falling of waves. And Brahma was being an instrument of all of that from his position. My sense is that while both of them are Mahajans, there's an intimacy in Bhishma that's not the same with Brahma. Brahma is a post, and he does, very important service, very, very important service, but it's not the same as his dear devotee, Bhishma. In terms of relationship, intimacy of relationship. So it's not exactly either one of those two examples, but Yogamaya acting, engaging him.
Maharaj, that reminded me, there's one, like in Christianity, Saint Augustine, he says that curiosity is actually a sin. If we're too curious, then we get ourselves... he said we should just accept with faith once we know God, once we've received God's mercy. So is that similar to like the first verse where it says that Brahma became entangled? When he was too curious, he wanted to see Lord's potency.
Yes. He was using his Gyan factor to check out what's the limit of the unlimited. And that, that's a no-no. That's good. It's a good comparison. Okay. Others? Bangsidhara, you have something?
It's a question about chanting. Like in our reading groups, we see devotees, they're actually getting good attachment to the Bhagavatam reading and so on, but struggling or not able to come to the attachment to the chanting. So sometimes I'm doubting myself, like, are we missing something, or in course of time they will get to the attraction for chanting also. So that's a question.
Well, I think I understand the gist of what you're asking, but I'm not really sure what you're asking. Are you asking, does taste for chanting come simply by studying the Bhagavatam and getting a taste for the Bhagavatam?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Not necessarily. It's meaning by that I mean by that I mean it's not a mechanical process. Another way you can say yes, because elevation of consciousness results in attraction for chanting, but it's not like a vending machine. I put some coins over here in this slot, pull that lever, and down comes attraction for chanting of the holy name. So it's not like that. That's the no. But but the yes is through, just like by reading the Bhagavatam, check it out. How many times is Krishna's name in the Bhagavatam? Hey. And many names of Krishna. And many devotees of Krishna. And honoring the devotees of Krishna pleases Krishna even more than honoring him. So, built within the Bhagavatam is that which elevates, including the chanting of Krishna's name. Which then, through purification, gives rise to attraction for that which is pure. But again, it's not a mechanical, it's a devotional process. Because Krishna is not easily purchased.
They have attraction for Bhagavatam is also happening. So
Yes. But you understand my answer. And from your own practical experience with your own life and or in the lives of others, you see some attraction to reading the Bhagavatam is wonderful. I mean, I don't want to go against something that Brahma just said in his prayers, but so it doesn't. It's not to say no, it won't happen, but it's not a mechanical automatic. That is, our teaching, and I will say this. My realization is everything rests upon the holy name and our relationship with Krishna through his name. So there isn't an alternative. Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nama. Not Harir Bhagavatam, Harir Bhagavatam, Harir Bhagavatam Eva Kevalam. It's the name, but then the name and the Bhagavatam, or Hari Katha or Krishna Katha, they go together. Sarup Shakti and Shaktiman go together. The Hari Katha and the name go together. So effort is required. And in part, in part it's a little bit like, it's not the same, but it's a little bit like young people having, it's easy for them to get involved in kirtan, and it's not the same to get involved in their bead bag. It's not this, 100% identical, but reading the Bhagavatam has its intellectual stimulation. And where's the fruitiveness or stimulation that comes from the holy name? Just chanting japa. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a fundamental question. Why no speculative knowledge? And if we accidentally draw into the boundary of speculative knowledge, how to quickly come back?
The first part of your question was how to identify when we're getting into speculative knowledge. What's that?
My first part of the question is why we should not speculate.
Oh, because you can't reach Krishna that way. And it obscures Krishna, in fact. It obscures Krishna, in fact.
And my second question is, when we accidentally get in a practical
not
life.
accidentally. We have such tendencies that we're very accustomed to such tendencies. We're conditioned souls, and we have such tendencies. It's not when that rare occasion comes that we go into this territory of speculative tendencies. It's a tendency. So how to quickly come back is, how do I quickly advance in bhakti? It's by the power of bhakti. So as your bhakti strength increases, then you can detect more readily that that's the zone that you're in. A stronger than it is appropriate tendency to speculate. I'll share something with you that's just an example of what you're asking. I know that Keshava Bharati Maharaj was one of the principal editors for Brihat Bhagavatamrita. So I came across one of Sanatana Goswami's commentaries. I mean, it was Gopi writing, but it was Sanatana Goswami's commentary, saying there's diversity not only of forms of Krishna, but forms of the avatars. And it was giving some examples of different Varahas and different Vamanas and different Nrsingas. And one of them said, and sometimes he comes as a cat. And I was curious. So I wrote to Keshava Bharati Maharaj, was there ever any discussion with Gopi about a cat? Lord Nrsingadev appearing as a cat. And he wrote back two paragraphs. I never heard any discussion. I'm unaware of any commentary from which Sanatana Goswami was drawing that understanding. The second paragraph was, but don't get too distracted by the curiosity of Nrsingadev as a cat, because there's so many wonderful instructions in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. And then I wrote back to him, thank you for that chastening remark. It wasn't just curiosity. I'm not going to pursue it further, but it wasn't just curiosity, because I regularly say prayers to Lord Nrsingadev for protection, and it was just an appreciation of how he manifests his protection to devotees. And I dropped it. And I had forgotten about it until your question just now. So if one pursues those things just out of curiosity, without any practical application, without any real bhakti, so ask yourself, when you start going, is this, if I get the answer to this, I get the real answer to this, how's it going to help me in my bhakti life? Is the place that you're wanting to understand coming from enhancing your devotion to Krishna, or is it just information, speculating, and so forth? No, we're encouraged to use our intelligence. In the Damodar Leela, Mother Yasoda was using her intelligence. Right? And Krishna didn't want it. So, how can we brought back quickly is the power of bhakti. The power of bhakti is the essence of bhakti, that Krishna is to be pleased. That's our life. Okay? Anything else? You have something? Oh, she has something online. You have experience of the microphone screaming.
This question is from Devi Murthy Mataji from India. My question is that in one slide you mentioned that a Krishna conscious person can see Krishna in a tree. Does it mean the devotee understands that there is Krishna in the tree, or he actually sees Krishna?
It's up to Krishna. When Prabhupada made this statement, someone asked a similar question, and I've had more than one discussion with Rabindra Swarup Prabhu because he likes this particular point. Being a philosopher, he heard Prabhupada say it, and he was like looking out the window in Gita Nagari, saying, you see that tree over there? Do you see a tree or do you see Krishna? And when it's devotion, it's not just the knowledge. So that there's a knowledge that says, this is Krishna's energy, and therefore it's Krishna because it's Krishna's energy. And that's seeing through the eyes of knowledge. And that's indirect. But when there's attachment to Krishna in devotion, then my wonderful Krishna is manifest this way. Prabhupada gives this example. It doesn't happen anymore, but there was a time when it was a fashion. Like, when people had cars and they would hang something from the rear view mirror. Now these days it's air fresheners, and then for a while before that it was CDs. But during some period of time, people used to hang their baby shoes with the string of the baby shoes from the rear view mirror of their car. And Prabhupada's statement is, when parent is attached to their child and they see their little baby shoes, they're no longer baby, but they see the little baby shoes, they don't just see their shoes, they see their child. So like that, whatever that means, to this devotee asking the question, they see Krishna because their affection and love for Krishna. And it can vary depending upon, let's say, for the gopis, they see Krishna wherever they look. They're also at the same time feeling separation from Krishna. So what's that like? But they're seeing Krishna. They're seeing Krishna. Even he's distant, they see Krishna.
That was Gopal Hari Prabhu's wife. She just went on vacation.
She's in India. Oh. Is there a break in school or something? Oh, homeschooling. Where are they? Experiencing relatives or experiencing Vrindavan or combination? Huh?
With Devi Murthy's parents.
Yeah.
In Delhi.
In Delhi.
Later on, we'll go to Vrindavan.
Okay. Okay.
just reached yesterday. They just reached day before yesterday or something.
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
This is from Naveen Nagareddy Prabhu. How to avoid or overcome the offenses that we make knowingly or unknowingly on a daily basis?
Well, how do you overcome the offenses? Because the result of the offense, you don't make them more. You strive to not make them more, and the Anartha Vritti process is how you overcome. And the Anartha Vritti process, in short, is a sustained and faithful execution of the primary activities of bhakti. Sustained and faithful execution of the primary activities of bhakti will get us on the other side of, or reduce and eliminate anarthas. Anartha Vritti through nicely done bhajana kriya results in anartha vritti. Sustained with faith. Okay, we're finished. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.